Susie, thanks so much for joining us on Scotland Tonight. You were relatively late coming to stand up. Is it something you'd wanted to do for many years before?
No. It was just a dare. It was one night. Me and a friend had been over to visit a friend called Maz Carruthers, and Maz was back in the UK and had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, stage 4, and this was like maybe early 2010, and we were talking about. We grew up at a time of great turbulence. Do you remember 2010 was before chaos enveloped the world? So we were a bit like, life's plodding along, we should do something to scare ourselves. And my mate suggested we could do this comedy course. I dare you, me and you together. And I was like, all right. Because it's a dare and you can't say no to a dare.
And so what was your first experience in front of the mic, facing this crowd? I always think it must be terrifying. I don't know how people can put themselves through it.
I know, and it was, but I think that's the dichotomy, isn't it? So you have the adrenaline and the absolute fear that if this fails, I'll never live it down, or it'll always live with me. But when it works, it's the best feeling in the world. So, and that's why, it is like a drug. That's why comedians do it. That's why comedians that have been successful went away from doing stand-up. They always come back to being a stand-up. They always end up touring. They can do radio, they can do TV, they can do everything, but they will still always love just treading boards and making people laugh. And I think that is the best thing in the world.
And how would you describe your comedy? What do you like to talk about?
I'm just kind of observational, and I talk about my life and kind of tell stories and try and, be a bit of a raconteur. And that's what I love. I love looking at the absurdities of life and kind of poking fun at it,
And what resonates with crowds then? What kind of tickles them?
Oh, just everyday life, you can talk about, I can talk about my relationship with my mum, right? Because my mum's at a certain age and I'm at a certain age, where sometimes the role reversal of parent and child happens, and that happens to everyone, and then that kind of mum logic thing, or talking about your relationship and the mundane things that happen in a relationship, but it might be something that you're just like, I can't believe they put polystyrene in the wrong recycling bin, right? And that's the type of stuff. And then you honing in on the detail and the minutiae of the most petty, ridiculous stuff, and being quite physical with it. And that's where people laugh, because you'll see it in an audience. I used to have a bit about how when a son returns home to his mother, the mum's like, I'll make you a bite to eat, and a hog roast appears on the table. But a daughter walks into her mother's and suddenly the mum's like, you need to put the kettle on, as if they're dehydrated until the daughter appears, right? And that is a thing where you would see husbands looking at their wives going, that's you, and them going, that's you, but that's your mother, and you would see all that. And I think, I love that bit of kind of the daftness of it, where people really kind of hone in and go, that's our house.
And so you've been working in construction sites for many years. I mean, how did that prepare you for the world of comedy? Or what was it like moving into it?
Well,
and because you were a woman in a man's world there, and moving into
women in a man's world. Yeah. So I've always tended to work in a man's world, and I've always been a bit of a tomboy. So I've always felt quite comfortable in those surroundings. But when you're in those surroundings, you, as the woman, need to be better. And that's just a fact of life. Now, I'm not saying it's right, but you have to be better. So when you're working in sites or you're working in estimating, you had to be good. You had to be good to be taken seriously. And you had to be good to be entertained.
Do you think, talking about women in a man's world, do you think female comedians are still fighting against the perception that women aren't as funny as men? Which clearly isn't true.
Oh, look, I come from a city that has gave this country Dorothy Paul, Elaine C. Smith, Karen Dunbar, Janie Godley, right? So there is no way that women aren't funny. Now, what I do think is that there's a public perception, and I'll be honest, I've had most of that perception from other women. And it's always women of a certain age. And it's never really, a man has never said to me, women aren't funny. I mean, they'll say that to you online when they're behind a keyboard, right? But they won't say it to your face. But I've had women come up to me after shows and they'll say, I really enjoyed that. And I didn't think you'd be funny because I don't like women comedians. And you're like, are we still fighting against this? Like, no one goes up to a woman accountant and says, I cannot believe you can count, right? Or goes up to a female engineer and they're like, how are you getting on with that engineering? Like, you wouldn't dream of that. But there does seem to be that perception that, oh, women can't be funny on a stage. But fortunately, I've managed to kind of break through with a lot of that, and a lot of my audience are women. But a lot are also men, you know, like I'll have men from 18 to 80 come and see me. A couple of years ago at the Fringe, I had 12 guys who all came in a t-shirt like this, just a different colour, and a different pair of a certain brand of trainers. And I felt that we were going to start a revolution. I did. I mean, middle-aged men, we wouldn't have got very far. But it was great. It was great. So I would say that that's the best thing about my job, is that I can look into an audience. I mean, at the Fringe this year, I had 4 18 to 21-year-old boys sitting next to 3 80-year-old women. And I was just like, what a world. But so lucky to have that type of audience. And yeah, that's really nice if you can bring a room of all different people together.
You've had quite a turbulent, I might even say traumatic few years.
Yes.
You had a heart attack on a way to a gig last year. Does any of that inform your comedy? Is that kind of material, or is it too close to the bone?
Oh, no. I mean, I remember sitting in the ambulance getting taken to, I think it was Bristol Western Infirmary, and I was getting taken to the specialist heart unit, and they've told me I'm getting taken to, and they've told me we've done ECGs, and they've gave me GTN spray and an aspirin, right? So it doesn't take a detective to work out that you've had a heart attack, but they obviously won't say that to you in the ambulance. And I had texted my agent, and I just took a picture, and I went, I'm going to have some show next year, right? Because you've got to find the humour in that. You've got to, like, in fact, 44...
Yes, I've had a heart attack.
It's next year's show fixed. And I think you've just got to find the humour, and you've got to look at the silliness of the situation. Okay, it's very serious and all that, but my life was saved by an amazing team. They'd done an angioplasty on me, and I've been fine ever since. But yeah, I think for you as a comedian, when you've went through trauma like that, it's very cathartic. It's very cathartic to kind of share this experience and say, but wait until I tell you what happened. And then I found myself using a commode. And then I found myself doing this. And it's stuff that people are like, this is an absolute nightmare. Oh no, I'm having Weetabix for my breakfast from now on, right? And I think there's something in that even if you've not had a heart attack, you'll know somebody that's had one. And even just people's attitudes in Scotland to the rest of the world, you know, people say, oh, many stents did you get? You know, that's how we look at that as a heart attack. And I think there's something quite funny in that. It's like, there'll be a defibrillator, don't worry about it. You know, and I think you've got to embrace that. It's quite a traumatic thing that's happened to you, but in the grand scheme of your life, it's just a little thing. So once you're comfortable enough to do it, and the people that love you are comfortable enough for you to do it, because you've put them through something, once they're ready to accept that and you're ready to accept that, find it funny.
Well, and lots of people do find you funny. So you've got some big name fans. It's Billy Connolly, Kevin Bridges. I mean, that's incredible. And Kevin Bridges has been very supportive of you. He's kind of championed you, hasn't he?
Yeah. So Kevin had me support him on his last tour for the Scotland dates, and that was an amazing experience. So it was 16 nights at the Hydro. I think it was 4 nights at the P&J in Aberdeen. And it was just a great experience, but also when you're around people like Kevin and Frankie, and obviously I work with Frankie on a podcast, when you're around... Frankie Boyle. When you're around those guys as well, you learn not just about your comedy, but you see how much work it takes to get to that level. And you may never get to that level, but it doesn't mean to say that you don't apply that work ethic.
To come back to Billy Connolly, you won the Billy Connolly Spirit of Glasgow award as well. I mean, did you think I've made it?
Do you know what? I just remember thinking, this is the strangest moment of my entire life, and I don't know if I'll ever get over this. And Billy Connolly says your name, and then he told my own joke back to me. And that way he goes, and actually I laughed out loud, and you think, well, that's it. I've literally made Billy Connolly laugh out loud, so it doesn't matter what a critic says ever again, because that is the ultimate stamp of you're funny.
That Glasgow style of comedy where you just go on and lecture your audience is brilliant. I loved it. I loved the bit when you mentioned Benidorm. I actually laughed out loud.
To me, he's the best. He's the best there has ever been, and that is the end of that discussion. But for him to tell your joke back to you and say that you made him laugh out loud in this kind of wonderful way of lecturing a Glasgow audience, as he put it, you know, it was so, he got me in a nutshell. And that, you know, that's like John Lennon saying you've written a good song.
Who cares what the rest of you thinks? But thankfully you are carrying on and making people laugh. So what's next for you? What does the future hold?
Oh, it's very busy. It's very busy. So I am currently writing a new show for the Kings, which is called Coming of Rage, because I'm 45 and angry. And, but I'm actually going on tour next April, May, UK and Irish tour all over. I'm like from Inverness to Bristol to Derry to Cork to back again. So that's my older show, which I just done at the Fringe, called Best Behaviour, which is the show about me trying to be in my best behaviour post-heart attack. And audiences will be the judge if I'm on my best behaviour. But I'm sure
Hopefully not, Susie.
never.
Okay.
What's the point?
Well, Susie, good luck with all of
Thank
that.
you.
And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.